My sister-in-law thought she could cheat on my brother and get away with it. So I let karma use me as its stage. I never trusted Claire. From the very first time Daniel brought her home, I knew something didn't sit right. She had this flawless grace, the kind that seemed rehearsed. She spoke softly, smiled politely, laughed at all the right moments. To my parents, she was an angel. To Daniel, she was perfection. To me, she was a performance wrapped in satin. My brother, Daniel, is an attorney, sharp, articulate, and painfully rational. My parents built our family business from the ground up, and I became an investment banker. We were a family that believed in logic, in facts, in proof. But this was instinct. I couldn't explain why, but every time I looked at Claire, something inside me tightened. Maybe it was the way she looked at people when she thought no one was watching, that flicker of cold calculation behind her demure smile. Still, I said nothing. For a while. But small things started adding up: late nights, unexplained yoga classes, her phone always on silent. Once, Daniel called her and she didn't pick up for hours, then brushed it off as bad signal. My parents dismissed my suspicions. "You're overanalyzing," my father said. My mother smiled patiently. "She's just different, dear. Maybe she makes you uncomfortable because she's not like us." Even Daniel laughed it off. "Claire's the most honest person I know," he told me. "You just need to warm up to her." But I didn't need to warm up. I needed proof. And sometimes the universe listens. Because just when I was starting to doubt myself, wondering if maybe I really was being paranoid, it handed me the truth on a silver platter. It was a Friday night. I'd stayed late at the office finishing reports and on a whim, stopped by a rooftop bar near the financial district. Just one drink, I told myself. One quiet hour before heading home. The place was half-lit and humming with low music, the kind of spot where laughter blended into the clink of glasses. I was halfway through my whiskey when I saw her. At first, I thought I was imagining it. A familiar shape in a silk dress, hair perfectly styled, her profile catching the golden light. Then she turned, and it was her. Claire. My brother's wife. And she wasn't alone. A man stood close beside her, his hand resting on her hip, whispering something into her ear. She laughed, not her polite, practiced laugh. This was unguarded, careless, wild. They moved together with the ease of people who had done this many times before. And then, right there, in front of everyone, he kissed her. Not a peck, not an accident. A deep, shameless kiss. My glass hit the table harder than I meant it to. I froze, staring, the world around me blurring into background noise. For a long moment, all I could think was thank you. Because the universe, or fate, or whatever force of truth exists, had finally decided to give me what I needed. I watched her pull away, giggling, lips still red, as the man murmured something against her neck. She clung to his arm as they disappeared into the crowd, like a woman who didn't have a husband waiting at home. I sat there, quiet, my drink untouched, my pulse steady. I didn't even feel angry, just calm, certain. The universe had given me the evidence. Now it was up to me to use it. The next few days, I was deliberate. I didn't confront her, didn't breathe a word to anyone. Instead, I started planning. Because when you know someone's dirty little secret, the worst thing you can do is reveal it too soon. I needed more than a scene in a bar. I needed to understand her. Her type. Her patterns. Her weakness. So I went back. Every Friday night, after work, I found myself in that same rooftop bar. Same dim lights. Same low music. Same crowd of people trying to drown the week in cocktails. It wasn't long before I saw her again. Different night, different man. This one was taller, broader, the kind who wore his confidence like a jacket he never took off. They sat at the same corner table as before, whispering and laughing, her hand occasionally brushing his. I stayed at the bar, watching from a distance, invisible behind the low glow of my drink. The next week, it was someone else. This one had tattoos. The week after, another, slick hair, loud laugh, a little reckless. Every time, she dressed the part. Sometimes soft and elegant. Sometimes bold and daring. Always just enough to make the man beside her think he was the only one who'd ever seen that version of her. By the fourth week, I understood. She liked danger, or at least the illusion of it. The kind of man who'd flirt with the waitress and still make her feel like the only woman in the room. She liked confidence, charm, and just enough mystery to feel like she was living out some secret movie scene. Not my brother. Never my brother. Daniel was stability, safety, predictability. But Claire didn't want safety. She wanted to be wanted by men who had no business wanting her. I remember swirling the ice in my glass one night, watching her laugh against the chest of yet another stranger, and thinking, you make it so easy for me. Because by then, I knew exactly what kind of bait she couldn't resist. And I already knew the perfect person to dangle it. I thought of Marco. He was a chef at one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. Handsome, self-assured, the kind of man who never wore an apron without rolling up his sleeves. I'd met him before through work events. He was single, charming, and exactly Claire's flavor of temptation. So, I invited her to dinner. It was just the two of us, a girls' night, as I put it. She came dressed to impress, makeup flawless, her perfume sweet and heavy. The restaurant was intimate, dimly lit, the hum of conversation low and indulgent. When Marco came to greet us, I saw it happen instantly. That flicker in her eyes, that spark of recognition women have when they see something they want. Claire, I said casually, this is Marco, the chef here. He studied in France, you know, built this place from scratch. Marco smiled, extending his hand. Pleasure to meet you. Her smile faltered, just a fraction, before she composed herself. The pleasure's mine. Your restaurant is beautiful. Not as beautiful as the company, he said with a grin. She laughed. A little too softly. I watched them like a scientist observing a reaction. She leaned forward when he spoke, asked questions she didn't care about, brushed her fingers against her glass with nervous excitement. When he left the table, I said lightly, he's single, by the way. She looked down, smiling to herself. Is he? That was all I needed to hear. Over the next few weeks, I dropped Marco's name casually, his new menu, his upcoming events, a dinner party he was hosting. Claire's curiosity grew. One day she even said, we should all go sometime. Daniel would love it. But her tone gave her away. So I asked my secretary to keep an eye out. Leah was sharp and discreet, perfect for this sort of thing. Just drop by the restaurant once or twice a week, I told her. Have dinner, stay observant. If you see Claire there, let me know. Leah didn't ask questions. She just nodded, the way good employees do when they already know more than they're supposed to. Within days, the report started. Claire had been visiting the restaurant twice in 1 week, then 3 times. Always dressed up. Always lingering long after her meal was over. Then came the Friday night call. Lee's voice was a whisper over the phone, shaky but certain. She's here again. And she's not alone. I held my breath. She waited until most of the staff left, Leah continued. Then Marco came out from the back. They're outside now, behind the restaurant, near the alley exit. I think there was a pause, the faint rustle of movement. They're kissing. And now they're sneaking out the back together, getting into his car. I said nothing for a long time. Just listen to the sound of the city in the background, the distant hum of traffic, and the silence of 2 people ruining everything they pretended to be. Follow them, I said finally. I already am. The next morning, I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. By the time Daniel and Claire's wedding anniversary arrived, I had everything I needed. I handled the arrangements, the guest list, the catering, the decorations. My parents were thrilled. Daniel, too. Claire was radiant, glowing in a silk dress and a diamond necklace, fluttering around like a perfect wife. And our chef for the evening? Marco. He didn't know. I told him it was a private event. He arrived early, sleeves rolled, confidence in every step. Claire didn't notice him at first. She was busy greeting guests, pretending her marriage was unbreakable, until Marco walked in with the hors d'oeuvres. He saw her, stopped, then smiled. Babe, he said warmly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Didn't expect to see you here tonight. The room fell silent. Claire froze. Her glass slipped, shattering on the floor. Daniel turned sharply, confusion etched across his face. What did you just call her? Marco blinked, startled. Wait, you didn't tell them? Claire's voice came out in a whisper. Marco, stop. You told me you weren't married, he said, realization dawning. You said your ex was controlling. That he made your life miserable. You said you were single. Daniel's chair scraped against the floor as he stood. You told him you weren't married? His voice cracked with fury. Claire shook her head frantically. Daniel, please, it's not what it looks like. He laughed, a sound that wasn't really laughter at all. It looks like my wife's been sleeping with the man cooking our dinner. My father's voice cut through the tension, low and final. Get out. Claire turned to him, desperate. Sir, please. I said get out, he repeated. Daniel stepped back, eyes dark. "You're done, Claire. I'll have the divorce papers ready tomorrow." And just like that, it was over. The perfect wife. The angelic daughter-in-law. The porcelain mask she'd built so carefully, shattered in a single night. She left in tears. Daniel didn't watch her go. My parents sat in silence. And I just stood there, my wine untouched, feeling the strange, quiet satisfaction of a truth finally revealed. The universe had given me the evidence. I had simply given it a stage. Marco came by a few days later, unannounced, holding a small box of pastries from his restaurant. He looked nothing like the confident man who'd walked into our home that night. His shoulders were tense, eyes shadowed with guilt. "I needed to apologize," he said quietly. "To all of you. I didn't know she was married. I swear I didn't." When I found out, his voice cracked slightly. I felt sick. I should have known something was off, but I didn't want to see it. My father gave a curt nod. "You were deceived, same as we were." Daniel didn't say much, just shook Marco's hand once before walking away. But I could tell it mattered. That acknowledgement. It helped close a door. My mother lingered a moment longer, her tone softer. "You were a victim too," she said gently. "Don't carry her sins as your own." Marco's eyes lifted, surprised, maybe even grateful. "Thank you, ma'am." When they left, it was just the two of us, me and Marco, standing in the quiet of the living room. The silence stretched, heavy with things unsaid. "I owe you an apology too," I said finally.
He blinked, surprised.
"For what?" "For using you," I admitted, my voice quieter than I intended. "I knew exactly what I was doing when I invited you that night. I knew she'd fall for you, because that's what she does. I didn't think about what it would do to you." He stared at me for a moment, then let out a slow breath. "You were trying to protect your brother. I can't really fault you for that." "I still hurt you," I said. A faint smile curved his lips. "Yeah, maybe a little. But I've been in worse kitchens." I laughed softly despite myself. The tension between us eased just a little, replaced by something gentler. "If you ever want dinner that doesn't end in chaos," he said, that familiar warmth returning to his tone, "I owe you one. On the house." I smiled. "I'll think about it." A few nights later, I went back to that rooftop bar. Same corner, same dim lights. Only this time, it wasn't a watch or plan or wait for proof. It was just quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Daniel was healing. He'd started smiling again, small, real smiles that reached his eyes. A few weeks ago, I took him to Marco's restaurant. It was awkward at first, like walking through the ghost of something painful. But Marco came out to greet us, kind and composed, and somehow the tension dissolved. Dinner stretched into hours, laughter, stories, and that rare comfort that comes only when people who've been through the same storm finally find calm seas. Daniel even complimented the food, saying, "Guess not everything that came from that night was a mistake." By dessert, he and Marco were talking like old friends. I just sat there, watching, a quiet warmth blooming in my chest. For the first time, our family wasn't circling around pain. We were finally moving past it. Claire had vanished. Rumors said she'd tried reaching out to some of her old flings, the same men she used to meet in dim corners and rooftop bars, but none of them wanted her anymore. She'd lied to them all, too. Played the same game too many times. Eventually, word spread that she'd moved to another city, trying to start over. But almost everyone who knew her wanted nothing more to do with her. Maybe she was still searching for her next stage, her next mask. Maybe she'd never find one that fit again. As for me, I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already won. Because in the end, the universe had taken back everything it once gave her, the love, the admiration, the illusion, and handed it, piece by piece, to me. When we left the restaurant that night, Marco walked us to the door. He caught my eye and smiled, soft and genuine. "Take care of your brother," he said. "I always do," I replied. Then, after a brief pause, he added, "And come back soon. Next dinner's on me." I smiled. "I'll think about it." The night air was cool, the city lights soft against the glass. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like something was ending, it felt like something was finally beginning.